All right, welcome back to the Jiu Jitsu Mindset. I'm with my professor, Professor Lucas Rubbo.
Welcome
Mr.
back, everyone. Great to be here. How are you doing today, Peter?
I'm well. When I was a kid, my parents, I could have tea, but I couldn't have coffee. So as a child, I would have been deprived submission coffee, which I don't know if the science supports that or not. But I was a pretty wild kid, so maybe it was just as well.
I
I
guess
didn't.
for the best,
Maybe it was for
yeah.
the best. But when it comes to kids and activity and so on and so forth, we always talk about how good it is for children to be in jiu-jitsu in a variety of ways. And we were lucky enough, Boz sent us that terrific video that we have on
Yes.
our Instagram page. Both the Jiu-Jitsu Mindset and BJJ Online Academy is now part of our
Hmm.
social media as well, where we're going to talk about our class in the future. But he talks about cognitive development. I know you spend a lot of time with kids. I
Yes.
mean, I just we've talked about this before, but what are some of the most obvious things you see kids getting out of jujitsu?
Peter, it's crazy to see, right? The development that they have even the weeks, right? The timing for the kids is different than adults, right?
Right,
They're on their time life on 4, 5, 6 years old. When
right,
you're doing jujitsu for a few months, that's already a big period of their life, right? In comparison with an adult that's been, doing that for a longer time and older and things like that. So you see the progress faster.
yeah,
And you see not only the progress in terms of the technique, they're doing the technique well and putting things together little by little, but the ability to solve problems,
yeah. Interesting.
to get into difficult situations and react in different ways that they used to do before. That's what I see the most
Right.
teaching kids right over the years, and that's what I see during the class. But when you translate that for a competition, this escalate even bigger,
Even
right?
bigger.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think like not to dwell on the coffee analogy, the what my parents said to me is like, oh, coffee will stunt your growth. And so and by the way, if you want submission coffee, go to the jujitsumindset.com. But um, so their argument to me and what they thought was the science of the moment was that uh, coffee would stunt my growth. And so when we put a child in this conflict oriented moment, or at least potentially perceived as a conflict oriented, you are going to fight this other
Mhm.
child. Um, and we want to raise children with maturity to understand what is the appropriate action at the right time. Do you find that putting them in these conflict oriented situations raises their level of awareness and maturity about how to behave in a situation where maybe we talk a lot about bullying in today's society, when either they're being bullied or they're seeing another person being bullied,
Mhm.
or does it just like raise their confidence of being physically capable to defend themselves, and so they go and become aggressors when they shouldn't be? So can you talk a little bit about those ideas?
Absolutely, is all of them, right? I think it's funny that we talk about this today because this week actually happened 2 days ago. A parent came to me and said that so we have this kid that trained with us been a few years, and he's a kid that he gives his best every single time in every session, but he still never had a outcome that he wants in a tournament. Okay,
Okay.
so he never won a fight. And he's
Hmm.
been competing, he's been fighting, he's been doing everything, been doing competition class, private lessons, sometimes even recruiting him as helping the coaching the little kids.
Hmm.
And this week it happened where his little brother was getting bullied at school.
Oh no.
And his first action when he saw that was going to that place where his little brother was getting bullied and talk with all the bullies and like stop that right away and like,
Okay.
look, if don't mess with my little brother or we have consequence.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the best thing, like because he's not the kid that will do that before jujitsu, previous
Okay,
jujitsu.
right, right. Yes.
He didn't have this confidence at all to talk with someone like that or
Right.
to eventually get in a situation where he needs to defend himself or his little brother.
Yes.
right? And then you see that change happening on the kids. Because I always say kids, they're like sponges, right? Like especially on the class, we're giving informations all the time. They're receiving informations from all directions all day, right? And a lot of times we think they not listen to you, they're not hearing, they're not doing anything. And all of a sudden, like you have flipped the switch, they started doing everything that they've been taught for so long, right? And those are those moments that you see the kid actually, okay, he was actually listening to me, he was actually doing this, right? We're on the right path. He's like confidence, he's having all the benefits that you always talk about it, right? The outcome of a tournament, that's a different story. And at some point we get, right? That's the
Yeah.
extraordinary people. They're extraordinary because they do ordinary things every single day with consistency. And he's doing that. He's putting the
Yeah.
time there, you know?
Yeah, I love that story in a variety of ways. I mean, I love it because, like, here's a child that is working super hard. And for
Mm-hmm.
them, they're thinking about this outcome in a tournament, which to them has consequences, but to truly beyond their psychological life, there aren't real consequences associated
Yes.
with winning or losing that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
However, in life, his baby brother being bullied and to able to stand up for somebody that you love is something that all of us in our head, I think, question unless we have the experience of doing it. Like you
Yes.
want to say, hey, in a moment where courage is required, will I have the courage? In a moment
Yes.
where I have to potentially give up something for myself, meaning perhaps my safety to protect. So would I do it? So at this early age, this
Mm-hmm.
kid has gotten the confidence to prove to himself to answer those questions that will stay with him for the rest of his life. And
Mm-hmm.
God forbid, I hope that no violence comes from this. I presume
Yes.
that the confidence of a kid coming and saying, I'm confident enough that if you don't knock this off, we're going to go,
Yeah.
is met with a certain trepidation on the other side. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, hold on a second. Who are we dealing with?
Yeah.
Um,
And Jiu-Jitsu was helping him to train his instincts, right?
yes, yes,
Because one thing, if we say like Peter, in 5 minutes, someone gonna knock on your door, and you might need to go to fight, and
right,
then you're gonna have, okay, I don't want to, but I have 5 minutes to prepare myself mentally,
right, yes,
and the door gonna knock, I'm ready, right?
right,
It's different right now. Someone just knocked on the door, you gotta take a decision,
yes, yes,
and
right,
like
right.
you don't have time to, man, let me figure it. Okay, I'm ready,
Yeah, right,
and you're training this, right? And again, that's what happened with the kid. He didn't have time. He was just like, okay, that's what I need to do right now, and that's what I'm going to do. Is he going to beat everyone? He's going to actually get in a fight? We don't know.
right.
But for the fact that he got that confidence to go there, help his little brother, that means more than anything, right?
I totally agree. And that like begs the question in my mind, the role of competition among kids in jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, having always played sports games growing up, the game day was really important because it crystallized my effort. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it created amplitude in my emotions, right? I like to win. So when I won, I felt great. And no, I
Yeah.
didn't like it when I lost. But the experience of having highs and lows is useful as a human being. Your life is more interesting by taking chances. Um,
Yeah.
and although as a child, like the closest thing I had to jujitsu in terms of boxing matches, that was a different type of experience than soccer games or basketball games.
Mm-hmm.
And I think boxing and jujitsu don't really have a very close analogy just because of the nature of being punched in the face versus the nature of being is I think they're different. When I perceive the kids in when I perceive the kids in the competition environments, I see lots of joy, like even among the ones that might be disappointed, because I see, particularly among our community, the love and affection that goes out to the fact that you did this.
Mm-hmm.
We love you for that, and it's not your love isn't contingent on the doing it, obviously, but we support you, we believe in you, we're here for you, win or learn, as we like to say. What's
Yeah.
your observation of the value of putting a kid in a competition environment?
Uh, First of all, to your point, I think that's the power of being part of a community, right?
Yeah.
Feel part of a community, and it can sound cliche or anything like that, but once you feel that you're a part of something bigger and with the same
Yes.
ideas as you have and mindset, that's really important to our growth. But yes, I agree. I think like every competition, every sport that you do, it always gonna help a lot in our personal growth. But comparing to group sports, right? Team sports like
Yes.
soccer, basketball, or let's talk about jiu-jitsu specifically, is the 100% on your effort on that day, right? Sometimes you're gonna win a game, you're gonna win a tournament in a soccer, basketball. Maybe you don't even play. Maybe you had the worst game of your life,
Right. Right.
but everyone else
Yeah. Yeah.
did
Right.
right, did really
Hmm.
good. So yeah, as you have the victories, you win together. You had losses, you lose together, and it's great because we're learning how to work in a group and everything. But I believe in jiu-jitsu or like those individual competitions in sports is 100% on you, right, on that day.
Yeah.
And then every tournament, like you say, like is a joy, right? You have the parents,
Yeah.
and then you see the different personalities playing. Like some kids, they're super quiet,
Right.
right? They don't say anything because they're nerve wracking, and then you have all the extra that add to that stress situation. Is the geese too long, the geese too short,
Right.
the kid
Right.
doesn't have. We struggle with weight classes and things like that, but we know what weight class we're supposed to be. We
Right.
can weight ourselves. A kid doesn't have that maturity sometimes, so
Sure.
they show up on that day. They're like above weight or
Yeah. Yeah.
underweight. So all those small things that keep adding to the stress, to the stress, to the stress. And then I have other kids that start like crying right away before the match
Oh,
start.
sure.
And on a moment, the match started, just go. So I have all kinds,
Yeah.
all kinds.
I
And
relate to that kid.
but I always say that 5 minutes after every single match, if was the best match ever in gold medal and submissions all the time, or losing super fast on the first match and be gone. 5 minutes after both matches, everyone is like on the same energy.
Yes, yes, that's a well put. I couldn't agree more. And I think
It's
that's true
yeah,
for all of us, but I think for it's a reminder of extraordinary people do ordinary things every day with consistency.
uh-huh,
Like the moment of victory is a very fleeting moment, as is the moment of loss. And so,
mm-hmm.
in a competitive environment, yes, you will remember that. And perhaps there are special moments. You get an Olympic gold medal, you win the NBA
Yeah,
championship. You're like, okay. However, for most of us, we will have a huge buildup to that moment. That moment will happen, and 5 minutes later, it's over. And
yeah,
now you're back among the community. There was this architect named I.M. Pei. His last name was P-E-I, and he was famous architect, built all this cool
mm-hmm.
stuff. He used to build these structures, and some of them, they were things in which like a kid could climb, and it would appear that it was dangerous, but it was constructed in a way that was very safe. Now you could do something
Okay,
stupid, but generally speaking, if you were behaving in a reasonable way, you could experience this structure to climb, and it was safe. And I was listening to this interview with him, and he said, I'm looking to construct a way to create false danger for people to build courage. And in many
wow,
ways, I feel like a well-run competition where buddy's properly sorted in weight classes, and there's good refs
mm-hmm.
and coaches that are instructing properly, that this is false danger. You feel
Yes,
your nervous system thinks the tiger is about to eat you, but it's not. But God forbid you are faced with the tiger about to eat you. You're that kid going to those bullies at the school saying, "That's it with my brother. That's not gonna happen anymore." Your
mm-hmm.
nervous system has built up a toughness to it because it's touched it. It's touched the anxiety, and I think minus that, fear grows in a person because you don't have the experience of being tested. Like you think, well, what happens if this happens? But if you
Yes,
don't have any experience with, well, do you show up for yourself or others or not? you need that, I think. And that jiu-jitsu is not the only place in the world in which you can
Hmm.
find that, but it is a special place for it because it feels to me extreme in some senses, because it's, a submission represents the moment before something bad could
Uh-huh.
happen, which is unusual to experience, and safe at the same time. There's less injuries in jiu-jitsu than many other sports because
Yeah.
of the controlled movements, and as long as you're behaving properly as a both training partner and a competitor, you
Yeah.
need to kind of find it. It's safe. Um, so you've been doing this for so long. You have year over year experiences. Um, when we talk about doing the ordinary consistently over time, like say some child who started 5, 6, and then is with you to their 9, 10. Is there any
Hmm.
common themes you see among those kids?
Man, seeing their their growth overall, like their their character being built, and then sometimes you see the way how they react to things that they don't know at the time. You know what I mean? Like I don't know
Right,
if it's clear enough, but if you were talking with someone, the kids are in the class, you're gonna see they're behaving, and sometimes they're gonna behave on that way just because they know that we're watching.
right, right, right,
But when you put them in situations like you're saying, like in a stress situations or false danger, that they need to take a decision,
right.
over the years, you see like how much difference was that kid. And well, we had a guest here, one of our first episodes, which is one of our coaches at the school, Coach Meet,
Yes,
right? He's been training with us for about 6 years now, same as his kid. His kid also training with us for about 6 years.
right.
And his kid now is about, I would say, like 12 years old. So you see a huge difference from 6 to 12,
Yeah. Oh
right?
my
And he's
gosh.
a super hyper kid, always was
Right.
extremely smart, but hard to control himself because just a lot of energy. Everything is so fast, right? Like you see squirrel and then you look on the squirrel,
Yeah.
all those things.
Right.
And 2 weeks ago, I saw him like talking with an adult that looks like he was like an adult.
Yes, yes.
The words that he was using, the his
How
posture,
interesting. Yeah, yeah.
the gesture, the way how he shook their hands and look in the eye, it was like, man, that's a little man, and
Yes,
he's
yes.
not only jujitsu, the life builds, the parenting, right, the friends, the community, but it was amazing to see on that difference on the kids, right? Like we're building, we're shaping their character,
Right. I
hopefully for
perceive that
good.
as I mean, that poise will always serve that kid because there's a
Mhm.
power differential between a child and an adult. So if that child can hold themselves respectfully to the adult, but as like, hey, I have what I have to say, and that is important, and then
Mhm.
be in dialogue with it, that dynamic will always exist in all of our lives forever, right? There's always some power differential. You're the teacher, you're the learner, you're the boss, you're the worker, and those things switch moment to moment through most of our days, through our entire life. And how do
Yeah,
you hold yourself with the dignity of this power differential is a function of the situation, not a function of me as a human being, so that way your boss comes and has to talk to you about whatever. Okay, I listen, but it's a function of getting, better or learning that this isn't the right place
uh-huh.
for me and so on and so forth. So those
And
skill, yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, to me, that's a function of leadership. Your ability to hold yourself with dignity people will orient themselves to you because they're looking for who in the environment is poised to make a decision. And most people are just reacting to the stimuli rather than to being calm enough, even in simple circumstances like a classroom or a playground or a lunchroom, work break room. I mean, pick your place. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add on, even on that young age, he knows his role in the community,
Yes,
right? You start understanding that, okay, now it's time to help this new student. Now
right.
it's time to be sweet and kind with this little kid because
Yes,
I'm
yes,
helping
yes.
coaching.
Right,
Now it's time to be the enforcer on the mat because I gotta go hard, right?
right,
Now, you start like learning your roles. And I think this is part of our develop and improvement in our life. You're gonna be working, right? Everyone's gonna be watching you, But once also when we're walking the street, everyone is watching you.
Right.
Okay, I like to think of that way. I like to think that everything that I'm doing, I gotta have someone watching. I gotta make sure I'm gonna have the right reactions for everything,
Right.
and understand that okay, now is my time to just give back and make myself like look super small and let's go calm and look this and look that. You match another personality. Okay, now this it won't work. You gotta
Hmm.
like switch to the other way, right? And same thing with our challenge. Like now I compete, I do tournaments, things like that because I want. I try to put myself in situations of stress during training because I want. Otherwise, you're just gonna get super comfortable, right? So I gotta try to make sure what I'm gonna learn for any of those challenges,
Yeah.
right? What I'm learning from putting myself on this situation. Why I'm training so much if I don't depend on this anymore,
Yes.
right?
Right. Right.
But getting back to what I was saying, like the consistency on everything, right? This is part of my life now. I
Yeah.
mean, for the last 20 years and hopefully 20 years ahead.
Yeah, yeah, that you'll be my age in 20 years for crying out loud. And I think, to me, situational awareness, if you have situational awareness, you can be situationally appropriate. And what I see as a disadvantage for many adults is the inability to be aware of what the situation requires is then creates a mismatch with their behavior. They're either too selfishly focused or they're oblivious to what's going on around them. Um, and when I think about the kids in our school, they're seeing the professors and the coaches just in the moment that they're they're experiencing as professors and coaches. However, those professors and coaches are bringing to them a whole host of like wisdom and experience that they have no idea. And I'll give you an
Mhm.
example of what I mean by that. Like, look, Professor Tom Dwiggins, the fire chief of Chandler,
Mhm.
Arizona, he's a heroic man, right? Like, he's been a
Yeah.
fire chief. He's been saving people's lives and managing people who were in leading
Mhm.
people who've been saving people's lives. He was in the Air Force. This is a man that has a lot of gravitas
Yeah.
that he brings to the mat. But if you're 7 years old, that's Professor Tom. Like in that. So there was a night where the kids were running wild in the parking lot, and somebody threw some rocks, and they didn't hit anything, they didn't hit any kids, and any cars. But it was wrong to be throwing those rocks. And
Mhm.
Tom goes and gets these kids together and talks to them about basically the consequences of their action. And it was an interesting moment for me because although these were children, I got to see Tom in his like forceful leadership moment.
Uh-huh.
And I thought these kids, first of all, he made them nervous. He wasn't gruff about it, but he was stern. And um, I think that comes through to them as here's somebody defending an idea. We don't throw rocks because that could hurt somebody. It's inappropriate. It's not situationally aware, and we're not going to do that here. But Tom comes to that or a lifetime of accepting the responsibility of I'm responsible I'm in the Air Force.
Mhm.
I'm responsible for these serious things. I cannot shirk those responsibilities. As a now a fire chief, but a long, these are my
Yes.
responsibilities and they have to be honored. I can't compromise my effort because lives are on the line. So these kids get a chance to experience somebody teaching them something simple, but who brings with them all of those kind of powerful
Yeah.
memories, experiences to it. And that is, I don't know, I think that's just a beautiful situation.
And yeah, that's awesome. And that's the role as leader,
Yes,
right? Because one thing, like you're saying, you mentioned all his accomplishments for he be a leader on the community,
right.
but the kids have no idea who he is,
Exactly.
right? If he just come and say, I mean, anywhere else, he could just call someone attention. That person regards that, oh, this is the chief, firefighter
Yeah,
chief. I gotta hear him, right?
right.
Kids have no idea.
Right, exactly.
They have no idea. So like he needs to show and earn that leadership towards them. Not saying I'm a firefighter, but like with the right words and the right
Right.
posture and right everything. And that's
Hmm.
his commitment to okay, he's a leader, whatever.
Right.
the situation is, whatever, regards being on the
Yes.
firefighter department or in life, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that that seeps into the kids. It seeps into me, being
Mm-hmm.
around you, being around Professor Tom, the the things that you are bringing to the community, they seep into who I am, and I carry those experiences and the things that go on between us in small moments, with me into the bigger moments of my life. And so I feel very blessed to have that circumstance. What with the children, um, in the teen, I mean, all the youngest people, I feel like I'm very aware of it, and I think about like, oh, how lucky am I to go and have these experiences. I think with these kids, it's imprinting sort of the subconscious almost. Like they're with you, with our other, coaches and professors, and even if they're not thinking, oh, I'm being taught something now, it's just working its way into who they are.
Yeah.
And I think we talk a lot about kids who are in bad environments and they're internalizing behaviors, ideas, and values that will be at cross purposes for themselves and maybe society in general. But this is the other end of that spectrum.
Yeah.
This is a place like to seek out and put your kids in these contexts. And it's fun for me when I see the parents who come in to their kids, recognize what's going on, and then they're on the
Mhm.
mats at some point in time going, you know what, I need
Yes,
this in my life
yes,
too.
yes. I think that's the most important part because parents, they mean the best all the time, right, for their kids. But if they never been in situations like that, they can never teach
Yeah.
their kids how to behave on that situation, right? You can, it's like that meme on, you see the athletes on the Olympics committing mistakes, and that person is on a couch eating Cheetos,
Right.
like, oh,
Yeah.
pathetic, you
Yeah.
loser, like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you go there? Can you be on doing something or like just understand the
Yeah.
Olympic level, right?
Sure.
So if the parent never be in that situation, like you're never gonna be able to teach your kid that
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
because is again is the everyday, is every day and every time talking about it or showing a lesson. It's not like, hey, now you guys pay attention. Kids doesn't work in that way,
Right.
right? You build a system, will condition on them to behave on that situation and to learn those lessons and to understand the values and everything else.
Yeah. I think about myself as a reader, like as I've gotten older, I think the changes in my eyesight actually have pushed me more towards listening to information like podcasts and audiobooks and whatnot. But I think about how much time I spent, you know, I don't know, from when I could read to maybe 35, 40, where, always had a stack of books by my bed and a
Mhm.
variety of different uh, subjects, both fiction and nonfiction. I bring that up for this.
Do you usually read a lot of books at a time, or you one finish one, start another? How you do this?
And so in the days in which I was reading lots of books, there would be a stack. And the stack would be, I'd be reading them simultaneously. Some might be
Really?
nonfiction, some might. So for a lot of my life, I did that. So I bring that up with this idea in mind that I learned a lot reading, and I'm glad that I absorbed those perspectives and that knowledge and those
Mhm.
interesting. I read a lot of fiction. I read a lot of nonfiction, but it's a different set of uh, learnings than the learnings that I have learned experiencing things. I'm of the opinion you need both. You need to have
Yeah.
an intellectual framework. Your cognitive function of your brain needs to be very, very developed, because if it's not, you are going to be stuck in just reacting to the stimuli that
Yes.
happens to you.
Yes.
So I feel very strongly that the best lived life, you have to go explore the frameworks to put your experience in. So religions and philosophy and wherever you might ascribe that,
Hmm.
you have to have a well-developed point of view to organize your own experiences, because an
Hmm.
experience to someone with no point of view that, well, it's just stimuli response, they're reacting in an animal way, right? Because they're And then
Hmm.
if you have a framework that sees that, oh, I'm being attacked and the world is I'm suffering here, and
Mhm.
that's all this is about. Well, then your stimuli is interpreted in another way. And then if you see the world that's everything that all the things in my life are opportunities, and they're opportunities for I can move these opportunities towards it being joyful and wonderful, even if in the moment it doesn't
Mhm.
take. So when you have me inside control and I'm on the verge of tears, I can perceive that as, why does Professor Lucas hate me so much? And he's just here to show me how I can't do this. Or this moment is an opportunity in which I can grow. This is actually a joyful moment, even though I don't feel particularly joyful as I am helpless in the grips of your instruction.
And Peter, if you notice, we talk exactly about that a lot in classes, like
Yes.
on how to connect the techniques that you know, right? Because
Right.
if you think as a place where you have a lot of dots all spaced from each other,
Yes. Yes.
all those dots are techniques.
Right.
How we're gonna correlate those techniques, right? What's the sequence that you're gonna build? Or,
Right.
oh, I know how to escape from side control. I have 10 different ways how to escape from side control, but maybe you don't know when you're gonna use which
Right.
technique,
Right.
right? And in situations like that, right, putting yourself in, like, you absorb the knowledge and
Hmm.
then you put yourself in situations where you can apply the knowledge
Right.
and you start solving problems. That's
Yeah.
what jujitsu give to us, right?
Yeah. 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 When you have a chance, if for those of you, if you go to the Jiu Jitsu Mindset Instagram page, you're going to hear a really great story by
Yes.
Boz Rutan about he had some surgeries on his body which didn't allow him to do something he really wanted to do. And he talks about how Jiu Jitsu gave him an intellectual framework in which to solve this like very real problem that he had. And it's a lovely sort of, story in a nutshell of what we're talking about. Well, Professor Lucas, look, I, I love talking about this. I think sometimes when we talk about kids, the dividing line between the kids and the adult experience is so blurred. It's probably
Mhm.
the same conversation. But
Yeah.
this week we have a tournament coming up here in about, I don't know, 10 days or so,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get a chance to experience these things in person. I'm going to take my debut as a purple belt and
There you go.
try not to get too crazy in between now and then with anxiety. But thanks for thanks for sharing all the wisdom with us. And um, we're working on a class for kids, by the way, right? So come September,
Yes.
we'll be talking to you guys about that. And if you go to the jujitsumindset.com, you can actually get on our mailing list. We haven't been active in sending out information, but we're about to begin that. So we'd love for you guys to just follow along. And if not, go to BJJ Online Academy or the Jiu Jitsu Mindset Instagram, and you can, we'll tell you about what's going on there as well.
Yes. Thank you, Peter. Super excited for everything that is coming together on the classes. I'm sure everyone gonna love it. And
Yeah.
yes, next week we have this big tournament. A lot of students competing. You're doing your purple belt debut. Have a lot of kids going competing. I'm gonna be competing the week after that
Oh,
on the Master Worlds
that's right.
in Las Vegas. So probably gonna be the last one for a while since my child gonna
Oh,
be
that's
born in
right.
a few months.
Oh my
So
goodness.
Paula already told him like, okay, that's the last one. So
Well,
hope everything's
you're
going
gonna be
well.
in a daily competition for about
Yes,
the rest of your life. We're trying
gonna
to,
be back to white belt, no strikes, first class.
That's right. I'm so excited about that. Well, we'll maybe we'll make sure we update people on the baby coming, and then once the baby's here.
Absolutely.
So, all right, brother. Thanks for everything. We'll talk to you guys who are listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you guys. See you later.